But Chika's ghost only leaned closer, her icy breath prickling Bella's skin. Now you will live with the weight of my death too. Three young friends, Bella, Chika, and Funmi, left their small village for Lagos with dreams of wealth and success. The big city held promises of a better life, and they were determined to make it. They quickly found work but soon realized it barely paid enough for rent, let alone the lifestyle they desired. Over time, they were drawn into the fast-paced nightlife, seduced by the quick riches of Ron's work, where wealthy men paid generously for their company. Within months, they transformed from struggling village girls to glamorous women of Lagos, flaunting expensive clothes and lavish lifestyle. The money poured in and they grew addicted to the luxury that came with it. But their luck ran out when one of their regular clients, a powerful politician, used Funmi for a ritual meant to secure his position in office. Her death was sudden and mysterious, and the trauma left Bella and Chika shaken. Funmi's death made them face the reality of their dangerous lifestyle, and they promised each other to quit the business for good. In the months that followed, Bella and Chika worked to rebuild their lives. They focused on finding men to settle down with, but this was other than they had imagined. They were accustomed to wealth and couldn't settle for men without it, rejecting suitors who didn't meet their standards. Eventually, each of them found someone who seems right. Bella married Tunde, a successful businessman, while Chika settled down with Emeka, a devoted civil servant. They believed they had escaped their past and could finally live normal lives. But soon after her marriage, Bella's life took a dark turn. She was overcome by an insatiable urge for physical intimacy. Tunde, though attentive, couldn't keep up with her relentless desires. Bella found herself sneaking around, entangled with their driver and even the family cook. Her body seems to crave more with each encounter, and she couldn't control it. Her husband noticed her erratic behavior and grew suspicious, questioning her late nights and secretive phone calls. One night, as Tunde confronted Bella about her actions, she broke down in fear and shame, unable to explain the overpowering force that controlled her. In her heart, Bella knew her past had come back to haunt her, a lifestyle in Lagos leaving her with more than just memories. The night Tunde confronted Bella was a turning point for her. She had been living on the edge and her husband's words shattered her. She cried, pleading with Tunde to forgive her, but his heart had turned to stone. The betrayal was too deep and his voice was cold as he told her to leave. Bella was devastated. She had sacrificed her dignity and her past, only to be cast aside in shame. Desperation turned to anger, and anger turned to something darker. The next day, Bella made a decision she couldn't turn back from. She went to the market, bought rat poison, and returned home with a plan. That evening, she prepared Tunde's favorite meal, a rich bowl of rice and chicken, seasoned perfectly to mask the bitterness of the poison. She set the table with a forced smile, barely containing her tension as she awaited his return. When he arrived, he was tired and said little. He sat down, took a bite, then another, devouring the meal as Bella watched. Her face calm, but her eyes sharp with intent. When he finished, Tunde went to bed without a word. Bella watched him slip into sleep, her mind racing, her guilt and anger mixing into a twisted satisfaction. But as the clock struck midnight, her satisfaction turned to dread. Tunde suddenly woke up, coughing violently. He clutched his stomach, his face contouring in pain, his body convulsing as the poison took hold. He called out to Bella, his voice a mix of agony and betrayal. But she stood by, watching him from the shadows, frozen between horror and resolve. His calls grew weaker, his body writhing until finally he lay still. Bella was alone in the silence of the room, and the weight of what she had done crashed down on her. She realized she hadn't just killed her husband, she had destroyed herself. She would never be free of what she had done, her life forever darkened by the shadows of her choices. And the hollow quiet of that night, Bella understood that she had crossed a line from which there was no return. Bella fled her past in Lagos, haunted by the terrible crime she had committed. She relocated to Benin City, hoping for a fresh start, far from the shadows that lingered in Lagos. She lived a humble life, using the little money she had left from her late husband to start a small roadside food stand, selling foodstuffs to make ends meet. She kept her head down, avoiding too many questions and trying to build a simple, honest life. One day, as Bella was arranging her goods, a sleek car pulled up and out stepped a familiar face, her friend Chika. They screamed in delight and embraced, grateful to reconnect after so much time. They had not seen each other since their lives took such dark turns. Over lunch, they shared their struggles. Chika confided in Bella about her marriage to Emeka, which had become unbearable. The thrill of marriage had faded and her restlessness had returned. She had started taking lovers among her staffs and even those who walked around her home. Her husband knew nothing, but she felt trapped, unsatisfied, and unable to control her impulses. Bella in turn shared a harrowing tale how Tunde had discovered her affairs, the arguments that followed, and the fateful night she took his life. Chika listened in shock, but instead of judging, she saw Bella's action as a twisted form of liberation. It wasn't long before Bella suggested that Chika do the same. "We are too strong to be caged," Bella told her. "Take control of your life again." Within weeks, Chika had followed Bella's advice and her husband Emeka mysteriously passed away. With their past erased, Bella and Chika fell back into their old habits. The streets of Benin offered fresh opportunities and they climbed quickly, mingling with politicians, wealthy businessmen, and the country's elites. Money flowed in as they charmed their way into the lives of powerful men. Soon, they amassed riches and properties beyond anything they had before. Yet, in the midst of their newfound wealth, strange things began to happen. They heard whispers in their homes at night and saw shadows out of the corners of their eyes. They felt the constant presence of eyes watching them as if haunted by the men they had left buried in the past. Sleep turned into torment with nightmares that brought them face to face with their dead husbands. Reaching out to drag them down, no amount of wealth or luxury could shut them from the guilt that gnawed at their souls, reminding them that their actions had not gone unpunished. Though they had returned to a life of opulence, Bella and Chika could never escape the ghost of their choices. In their hollow mansions, they were forever haunted by the darkness they had sown, realizing that some lines once crossed could never be undone. Their laughter grew hollow, their beauty faded, and surrounded by riches, they became prisoners to the curse they had brought upon themselves, destined to live in the shadows of their sins. Desperate and sleepless from nights filled with haunting visions, Bella and Chika knew they couldn't go on like this. The specters of their husbands appeared in every corner at night. They had feel cold hands on their shoulders, hear whispers in empty rooms, and see shadowy figures looming at the edges of their vision. Their wealth and power had become meaningless in the faces of the relentless hauntings and the reminding them of their sins. Determined to rid themselves of this ghost, they traveled far to seek the help of a renowned spiritualist. His hut was deep in the forest, shrouded in mystery and silence. The old man listened intently as they recounted every detail, from their early lives to the dreadful acts they had committed. He watched them with dark, piercing eyes, silent and unmoving. Finally, he handed them a small pouch filled with a strange, glittering powder. "Blow this powder throughout your homes and in every corner of your compounds," the spiritualist instructed. "Once you do, the spirit will find no place to enter. You will be free from them." Relieved and hopeful, Bella and Chika thanked the spiritualist and returned home. That night, they sprinkled the powder in every room, blowing it into the corners and along the threshold, even spreading it in their compounds. Exhausted but hopeful, they finally lay down to sleep, convinced they had been free of the torment. But as night approached, the hauntings grew worse. Their husbands' ghosts appeared, more vivid than ever, faces twisted in anguish and rage. The shadows stretched and loomed, their whispers echoing with accusation. The powder had done nothing to stop them. In fact, it seemed only to anger the spirits more, drawing them closer. Their hollow eyes fixed on Bella and Chika with an otherworldly hunger. Panicked and trembling, Bella and Chika realized that there was no escaping their past. No spiritualist could cleanse the stains on their souls. Their late husband's spirit were not there simply to haunt, but were there to claim what was owned. With each passing night, the hauntings grew and the women were dragged deeper into madness until one final truth became clear. They would live out the rest of their days paying for the sins they thought they had left behind, bound eternally to the shadows they had created. One sunny afternoon, Chika, unable to take it any longer, drove to Bella's house and broke down in tears. She confessed that she couldn't bear the guilt anymore and wanted to go to the police to admit how she had killed her husband. "You will do no such thing," Bella raged, her face dark with anger. "Are you trying to implicate us?" she shouted. "Don't you dare make a mistake you will regret for the rest of your life." "I had rather confess and be free than live every day in fear," Chika replied. Standing firm, she stormed out, leaving Bella uneasy and panicked about what might come next. The following day, Bella called Chika, claiming she had found a solution to their problems. Eager for relief, Chika drove over immediately, unaware of Bella's true intentions. As soon as she entered the living room, Bella struck her with a heavy rod and Chika collapsed lifeless. Without hesitation, Bella carried Chika's body to her car, drove to a secluded river and dumped her remains. As she returned home, Bella felt a grim satisfaction, believing her secret was finally safe now that Chika was out of the picture. For months, Bella finally felt a sense of peace. Chika's threat to confess had rattled her, but now, with her friend's body hidden in the river's depths, she believed she was free of her past once and for all. The hauntings had stopped. The shadows had retreated. It was as if, by silencing Chika, Bella had silenced her guilt too. She went about her life as though nothing had happened, reveling in her wealth and freedom. But one quiet evening, as Bella prepared for bed, she heard a faint knock at her front door. She froze, her heart pounding. She hadn't been expecting anyone, and a strange chill swept over her. Dismissing it as an imagination, she climbed into bed, but as soon as she closed her eyes, she heard the knock again, this time louder, more insistent. Reluctantly, she made her way to the door and opened it, but there was no one there, only silence. Bella shivered, locking the door and heading back to bed, trying to ignore the dread creeping up her spine. Just as she pulled the covers over herself, she heard footsteps echoing through the hallway. She sat up, her breath shallow, listening as the footstep grew louder and stopped just outside her bedroom door. Slowly, the door creaked open, and standing there, dripping wet, was Chika, her face pale, her eyes dark with a cold, vacant stare. Bella gasped, stumbling backward as Chika's figure floated towards her. Her wet hair plastered to her face, her lips twisted into a haunting, lifeless smile. "You thought you could be free?" Chika's voice was a chilling whisper, the words dripping with betrayal. "You thought you could bury me and live on as if nothing happened." Bella tried to scream, but her voice caught in her throat. She stumbled, tripping over herself as she backed into the corner, watching in horror as Chika moved closer. The hair around her grew thick and suffocating, as if Chika was draining the life from the room itself. "Please, I don't have a choice," Bella whimpered, her voice shaking. But Chika's ghost only leaned closer, her icy breath prickling Bella's skin. "Now you will live with the weight of my death too," Chika whispered, her fingers reaching out cold and relentless. From that night on, Bella was never alone. Chika's ghost lingered in every shadow, her voice filling Bella's head with whispers of guilt and despair. No matter where Bella went, no matter how far she ran, Chika was there, a constant reminder that her sins could never be erased. In a mansion, surrounded by wealth, Bella became a prisoner of her own mind, haunted by the ghost of both her friends, realizing that the darkest nightmare was the one she had created for herself. And so, Bella's riches and freedom turned into a cage of internal torment, a reminder that some secrets could never be buried and some sins could never be forgiven. The relentless presence of Chika's ghost wore Bella down, eroding her spirit with each passing day. She could no longer bear the constant whispers, the cold, accusing stare that seemed to follow her every move. Nights were filled with shadows that crept closer and closer, filling her with dread that no amount of wealth could erase. Her guilt had festered into something she couldn't escape. No matter where she turned, Chika's face was there, her hollow eyes demanding justice. One morning, after a sleepless night filled with the familiar haunting whispers, Bella made a decision. She could no longer run. The weight of her actions had grown too heavy, and the ghost of her past demanded that she face the truth. She dressed simply, left her home, and drove to the nearest police station. Walking in, Bella was a broken woman. She approached the counter and with a trembling voice began to speak. She confessed everything, how she had left her village with her two friends in search of a better life, only to fall into a world of corruption and sin. She spoke of how greed had consumed them and how they betrayed their marriages, and how she had taken the lives of both her husband and her closest friend. The officers listened in stunned silence as Bella poured out every painful detail, each word punctuated with regret and despair. When she was finished, she looked at the officer before her, tears streaming down her face. For the first time, Bella felt the heavy burden of her guilt lift, if only slightly. She had finally laid bare the dark truth she had hidden for so long. Bella was immediately taken into custody and in weeks that followed was tried for her crimes. Her confession left no doubt and the court found her guilty on multiple counts. She was sentenced to life imprisonment, her face sealed within the walls of a cold, unforgiving prison. In her cell, Bella was finally free of the ghostly hauntings that had tormented her. Chika's presence faded, replaced by the grim reality of her confinement. But Bella knew this was a fitting end, a life stripped of freedom, a prison of her own making, and as she sat alone in the darkness, she realized that the weight of her sins would stay with her forever, even if the haunting had ceased. In the end, Bella's quest for wealth had cost her everything, leaving her with nothing but memories and regrets. Locked away in a cell where shadows lingered, as silent witnesses to the story of a life undone by its own choices. The end.